flash talk. There are three things that I want to show you. How many of you use IPython? Alright, so IPython is a console, is a project developed by the scientific Python community. Also, although it is being used by everyone. People normally think of IPython as something that cannot be complete, which it can. But IPython really is something far more than that. It can do magic functions, and then magic functions are basically some functions that you can do on input and output, and then you can try and do, which doesn't really have to be from Python. It does not have to be, something that you cannot normally expect to be done on its own. So here is an IPython notebook. One of the things that you can do is, let's say you have a equal to 5, b equal to 6. I want to see all the variables that I have here. There's a magic function called as who is. So it'll show me these are the variables available in this particular interactive session, and I can use those sessions. Not just that, I can also do something like _19 in order to in the latest output. _19 in this case does not have anything, therefore it will not show anything. Let's say 6, I can do _21. Similarly, not just the output, I can also refer to the input by saying _i21. So when you're doing interactively a lot of stuff, you want to refer to something back again, which you may not have given a variable assignment for, in which case you can always get those values. Not just that, so there are plenty of magic functions. You can do log start, log stop. I encourage you to check it out. This kind of interactive computing is relevant everywhere because all of computing is interactive at the end of the day, right? What you're doing, you want to write let's say you have a request, you want to go get something from the database, do some processing on that, put it as a HTML table, and render it in a template and send it across the wire. So all of this is interactive. Of course, you can write calls if you were thinking about it, but if you don't know, if you're learning a particular framework, just simulate it, getting a request, go to the console, and then do everything that you want to, put it together as a function. That works really very well. Well, this, like I said, can also work for everywhere, including the web development. But one particular place all of this is extremely important, extremely useful, is scientific computing, where what you need to document is not necessarily the output of it, but how did you arrive at it. So it's a process of what does particular scientist is thinking. What kind of statistical analysis should I do? Should I do a Bayesian method in order to determine some machine learning about it, or should I use some deterministic algorithm that exists? So this entire IPython tool set has been catered towards the scientific Python community because they are the ones who developed it. The tool is awesome, except these people are scientists are not really good at marketing that much. It does not get enough attention. You should probably check out IPython. One of the latest things that IPython has developed is something called the IPython notebook. So terminal is good. You send an input, get an output, you store it all. What if you want to share? You can't share it, right? How would you share it? You're taking it, copy, pasting the whole thing in a text editor and then sending it an email now? So instead, there must be a better way of it. So what the IPython notebook does is stores each and every input, each and every output in a JSON format. The format is documented, and this format can be interpreted by the IPython notebook server, so it can read any notebook available anywhere. So because both the input and output are saved, even though you do not execute it, you can see it through the IPython server. And because the JSON is stored and it is just a format, there is something called as a notebook viewer, which is essentially takes this JSON and then displays to you one by one. And you don't have to host your own notebook viewer. IPython team has come up with one particular notebook viewer called as nvviewer.ipython.org or something. So the next thing we are going to do is to see how the scientific computing can be done. I don't want to go through in detail about it. You know how the IPython notebook works right now. One more thing I want to show to you. So let's say I will do import quiz, and I want to do quiz.walk is something that I want to do. I don't know what it is. I can do a question mark, and I can see the documentation of this one right here within the browser. Not just that, documentation is not good enough. I want to see the source. What do? Put 2 question marks. You actually see the source here. So this is, you can interactively analyze, you can store the workflow, and then you can see the documentation, you can see the source within the notebook, you can see this and view it on any viewer. So that is the power of IPython notebook. I encourage you to try it. So one of the scientific computing kind of thing. Basically, analysis of the data is something I did recently because I wanted to buy a headphone. So how would you buy a headphone? Anybody knows the site called as uses this? It uses this.com, .org. I think it's com. So it's a site by someone who calls himself Reefer Baby on Twitter. So it is basically an interview of a lot of the people on what hardware and what software they use. Let's take, for example, Brendan Cheng. He is an indie game developer on Mac. He says these are all the hardware he uses and these are all the software he uses. I found that very interesting. There are about 374 interviews, including the latest one that has got added today. So there are 374 interviews of popular developers, designers. I don't know how to qualify that. I would rather call them influential developers on the internet. Not just developers, designers, artists, and all of those people. What hardware they use, what software do they use. So reading some of these interviews, I got really inspired. I adopted so many things from the tools by several of these interviews. So one day I wanted to buy a headphone, so I didn't want to go to Flipkart and order something like that. So I wanted to decide to check out what are the popular headphones on the site. It was a good opportunity to learn the Pandas because I wanted to buy a headphone anyway. So here is something I started with. It uses this as all of this as entire site available in GitHub repository. So I checked it out, and then this is just whatever you see in the top. This is all the code that is there in order to parse it. So you parse it. There's a regular expression. I could tell you what the regular expression does, but you will probably need another session for the same. So you use the regular expression, parse out the things that you're interested in. What is the hardware? What is the software? And then you put it initially in a list and put it as Pandas data frame. Pandas is a library that I wanted to learn, which is basically helps you analyze all of the data sets which are in the form of Excel. One major important class Pandas provides is called the data frame. A data frame is, I think, is a statistical language derivative. In R has a data frame, which is essentially a column, multiple columns of data, where each column has a homogeneous data type. So I took all the hardware, all the software, and put it as a Pandas data frame with title and each developer, what are the categories, each person, what are the categories he has. Some of them are Mac, Linux, OS, designer, artist, and all that stuff. And I put all of the ways they use, hardware and software. So let's say, and then I went on to try to do some analysis. What are the popular things that they use, etc. The first thing that I plotted was what is the most popular hardware? What do you think is the most popular hardware among all these people? So we could get into how I did this also if there is interest. Do you want to see the process? What is the data frame? How do you put it into a data frame? And then how do you group? How do you pivot table? Okay, so in that case, so I don't want to get into the regular expression. Otherwise, after the regular expression, after you get it, basically, I take all of the pairs. I take all of those, put it in a particular list, and then pass it as a construct, pass it to the pandas.series. A series is one particular column, and data frame is a list of columns. And then once you have this data, Pandas provides to you all the relational database functions as very simple functions that you can operate on the data frame, and Pandas is known to be extremely fast and efficient at it. In fact, one of the shortcomings of our data frame is relational joins are very slow. And since Pandas is built on top of NumPy, and since all the functions are C, and since extreme amount of optimization has gone into doing this relational database joins fast, and since all of the data lives in memory, anyway the data size is small here, so that doesn't really matter. You learn analysis on a small data set, you can anyway apply to a large data set which fits in memory. That's the point really. So I put it in a data frame, and then you create a pivot table. Who knows Excel pivot tables? I love them. Excel pivot table, basically you have a set of data, you select what should be in the rows, what should be in the columns, and what should be the aggregated value you want. Do you want an aggregated sum? Do you want an aggregated count? Do you want an aggregated not null value? Some things like that. So, and similarly, I'm sure all of you know the relational database group by function, right? Yeah, relational database group by function is, so you have a set of things, I want to group by city they have, so all of these cities, and the aggregated function is. So these are the two powerful functions. One is the pivot table, that is the group by in Pandas. Once you have all of this data in a Pandas data frame, all I did was tell me everyone who has where the type is equal to hardware, tell me what is the most popular one, and then plot it. This is available online. In fact, this is the internet URL. I will share the link where this thing is available. You are welcome to check it out and send me queries if you have. More than happy to answer. So I will talk then. So basically that's it. You put it in a data frame, you expand it into a single series, and once you have all of the categories used by individual people, you can query it on the category, you can query it on the type, you can query it on what is the head, what is it. So basically all the wheres are available already. The users this GitHub repo as individual files, and each of these where can be the hardware or software, has a type, has title, has URL, also has description. So you can always query on the where, but since that is not enough, we want to query on the description. If I want to find out what is the most famous keyboard or the most famous headset, obviously that is not going to be part of the URL or the slug. So we go a little further, and then I try to get all of that, and then after I did all of this, I wrote a post about the most popular hardware and software hackers use today. And then, so here are the results. The most popular hardware happened to be MacBook Pro. The next most popular hardware happens to be MacBook Air. The next one is Cinema Display. You see a pattern there? Alright, sounds good. Similarly, on the software, I was really surprised to find most of the people, or a fourth of the people, saying that they use Google Docs. And then Mac OS X, I mean, everyone uses Mac OS X, but it's not explicitly mentioned in the interview because it might be obvious in many cases. So what this essentially tells us how many people actually connect with it, how many people like to say that they use it, how many people have been influenced by using a particular software. That's the way I would like to look at it. Similarly, yeah, I mean, you can clearly dismiss this as a biased sample. You are only interviewing everyone that is using a Mac. Maybe you're not interviewing people who are doing Linux development. I don't know if that is true. I would rather consider this as fairly representative of the influential people on the internet. In any case, here is the graph of the people using these different tools itself. Most of the people end up using Mac. In fact, 70% end up using Mac, I think. And half of them are developers. The rest half are either designers or artists or game developers. So among all of these people, so this is not enough, right? In order to know things like designers use Photoshop, and then designers use, everybody uses, most of the people end up using a Mac application. You don't need to do this kind of analysis. Not enough. I mean, you know it already, what's the whole point. The whole point really was to find out what's the most popular headphone, like I told you. So I ended up finding that by querying it for where the description contains headphone. Yeah, so clearly there is a tie, so I still haven't bought one. Maybe if any of you tell me, you can suggest which one. And then similarly the keyboard and text editors, which you can go ahead with. The text editors, you would think Emacs rules, right? At least among these people, not necessarily. Sublime Text 2 is significantly higher than that. Popular backup solutions is, I don't know what time capsule is. Anybody use time capsule? I was told by Mitesh earlier that it's something that backs up on Wi-Fi in their hard disk. Maybe I should look into that. Given that so many people use it, I should probably look into it.
It has its own hard disk.
Sorry?
It has its own hard disk.
Yeah, it has its own hard disk and it comes with the Wi-Fi itself. Pretty cool. And then most people use an Aeron chair. Not meant, yeah, among people who say that you use a particular chair. Most people use it. That's very expensive. There are some really not as expensive, but just as good alternatives in products like that. And then item 2 seems to be the most preferred terminal. I personally use Wiser. I like the total terminal a lot. Here I am in the minority. Popular printers. Yeah, you can check out. Not many people want to associate themselves with any printer. I think that's a totally understandable thing. Who loves their printer? Anybody? Yeah. So there are popular scanners as well. So that's about it. This entire analysis is available in a post I wrote recently on Medium, and I've also linked it to the particular Pandas in the viewer, so I can look at the analysis. That's about it.
But that one thing is, so I do Python training.
Anand, can you use mic?
Sure, yeah.
I do Python trainings. So anyway, what I used to do is I used to set, after the end of the workshop training, I used to set out, zip the code and then whatever wrote and then we used to send. Okay. Now that code was not in any order, and we have a bunch of files. Now recently what I started doing is I using IPython notebook. Now it became so wonderful. Okay. After I'm doing the class, okay, and day one I've done this. It's all captured in the same order, and then go back and actually go over all of them again and again. Okay. So it's so I'm really finding IPython notebook is so wonderful.
Replace the content sequentially or just use your term directly when you use. It's like, Linux has a utility called script, right? So that you can record the terminal input and then it stores the timing of these. So when you do a script replay on it, it says that someone is actually typing on the whole thing. So when we use IPython, this variable format is a dump or we can use.
So it basically uses a dump, which is the JSON input and JSON as output. But if you want to run the whole thing, you can go to the menu option and say cell run now. So it will start running the input one by one and then replay the corresponding output. And then you do a save, it saves, it replaces the existing JSON.
Is it a web app?
Yes. It connects to the kernel, which is the IPython kernel, through ZeroMQ protocol. That's what was implemented by the IPython.
But there's one feature that I miss a lot is it doesn't auto save.
It does auto save in the latest version. You can pull it from the trunk. Yeah.
So the reason I keep doing it and then it goes tab and what I've done in the whole class is become lost. Okay.
In fact, what it does in the latest version is automatic revision control effect. I'm not sure if this is the latest version, but anyway, that has a bootstrap UI. What you really need is want to save a checkpoint. So I have an argument against automatic saving because I try to do something random and I don't want to replace anything that was already existing without my permission. So there are arguments to and forth. I think the latest version takes your side, does it automatic save point, checkpoint saving.
So the thing is like usually I don't edit stuff, I add only thing at the last point. Okay, so that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
But one thing that is useful is to have when I'm working on this, okay, someone sitting there can actually see that URL and see what you have there that time.
Exactly.
That's not there. Okay? So the thing is, unless I save it here, okay, they won't be able to see. Okay, that way autosave is there. Someone else can keep watching what I'm doing.
Okay, so you're saying whatever I do here should live go to so many different notebooks.
Yes. So no, so everybody's point is saying URL, okay, and you are modifying it. So everyone should be able to see the same thing.
That's an interesting thing for particularly targeted towards training segment. I'm sure no interesting feature.
Yes. No,
right part doesn't exist.
So right now the problem is I save it here, ask them to reload.
Yeah.
So the two manual steps involved. If both of them can be done automatically, it will be very awesome.
It's an interesting feature request. I'm not sure if IPython team will actually look into it, but let's see.
So that results are only about the opinions from those. All the results are based on the different people, that influential people opinions only, right?
That's right. 373 people.
And everybody use the same website.
Sorry?
And all those influential people.
So this is a website by someone who calls himself Wafer Baby. I think his name is Daniel, and he sends interview requests to all of these people who send him a response, and he maintains this site.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is get the dump from.
So this site itself is implemented as a static generator, using a static generator, but specifically Jekyll, I think. So because all of that is there in the form of markdown files, I go through each and every file and use the regular expression to extract the data of interest.
Could you do one thing? Could you just share the link of your? Can you just share the link of your the Panda code on maybe the BangPypers group, so it will be automatically.
I will. Thank you. In fact, I did a similar kind of presentation even at the fifth curriculum. Obviously, that was a little more elaborate on the demo and etc.
So So you're targeting for any kind, something like 2004 election results poll, something like that? 2014 polls, something
Personally,
like this.
I don't have any interest in trying to do anything about 2014 polls. But if you have, this is a really good tool set, and I can help you where to do and what to do. Yeah. Or if anybody is interested, this is an interesting tool chain to use for analysis and plotting and finding out. There are so many geo extensions you can put. The states that have different parties in red, green, blue, gray, whatever you want. There are all of those tools available. Personally, I'm not so interested in the polls, so I'm not interested in that. If you or anyone is interested, I can surely point you to the right direction.
But there are websites, right, already, like Times of India, something like newspaper websites, and they ask somewhere right side of the picture, somewhere you click something to register your opinion, something like that.
So there are.
They also use something similar.
So particularly with respect to the visualization, the best visualizations today you see is in the New York Times. They have really amazing visualizations created by D3 because those are all created by the person who wrote D3, Mike Bostock's. It's really, they have very nice transitions, moving around, you can select, change the color and all of that stuff. D3 is a very popular tool chain, and is also one of the things that I did not show you right now, what I spoke in the fifth elephant talk about, is that you can use dynamic D3 visualizations within IPython model. So these graphs are all good. I mean, they tell you how big something is, how small something is. This is not really good enough today for today's web audience. They want something more interactive. They want something to be there on the client side. Image is not enough. So there is a lot of work done. You can have your data in the form of a list in Python and then throw it away into the browser in order to render it in a D3 in a very interactive channel. I can share the demo links for that. That's not right.
Is it just not possible to just say import IPython, something like that, just to start using it rather than as a separate?
So
So
IPython.
then, suppose if I am writing a Python program.
Okay.
So somewhere is it possible just to write some import IPython, something that start using the APIs or whatever?
So one of the things is, instead of typing Python and getting a console, you can type IPython and get an IPython console, which is everything, a superset of Python console. So everything that works in Python console also works here. So all you have to do is pip install IPython, you can install pip, and then you can do IPython instead of Python. And if you want it as a notebook, you have to do IPython notebook instead of just an IPython. IPython also has third form of client, which is a KDE console. And if you want to have that, which is Qt console, you do IPython Qt console, you get that console.
IPython notebook is on this IPython notebook server is there, right? So
Yes.
is it something just the complete server is downloadable and can be set up locally? It's only
There are two things. One of them is IPython server, which is the notebook can connect to an existing IPython kernel, which should be an IPython server. So it can take the input, process the output, and give it back to you as output, which can be installed locally, which will come default installed if you install IPython today, I think. And you can type IPython notebook in order to get that. But that is not all. If, for example, someone does not have IPython installed, still wants to see what is in the input and what is in the output, since all of this is stored in the JSON format, there is something called as notebook viewer. You can install that separately on your system also. You provide a link to the file. It reads the input JSON, output JSON, etc. and then present to you in the browser. If you don't have that, because it's all JSON anyway, you can open it in a text editor and see input and output. Except text editor does not necessarily render the base64 encoded images properly. And similar IPython notebook viewer is also available online for everyone to use at nvviewer.ipython.org.
Just a viewer, or we can also use it as a server.
So if you want to use it as a server, Continuum Analytics is one of the Python companies. They have something called as Wakari, where you can register and then it is connected in Amazon EC2 instance, and then you can go on using a server. The IPython team has got only a viewer, which is nvviewer.ipython.org.
Wakari.
Wakari, yeah.
Safari.
Alright, so unless there is any more questions, that's it, thank you.